Two people can buy the same investment on the same day with the same information and still end up in two completely different financial lives. Not because one had secret knowledge, not because one was a genius, but because they were using different versions of their brain. One brain sees a dip and feels danger. Another sees a rally and feels greed. Another freezes. Another overthinks. Another stays calm, follows the plan, and lets time do what emotion never can. That is the real game of investing. Because investing is never just numbers. It is fear, temptation, uncertainty, ego, patience, identity. And at every level of investing, a different mental system tends to take control. So in this video, I want to show you exactly how your brain behaves at each level of investing, why that keeps most people stuck, and how to train your mind for the next level of wealth. And here is the payoff immediately. If you can identify which level your brain is currently operating from, your mistakes stop looking random. You start seeing the pattern. And once you can see the pattern, you can change it. Most people think investing is mainly about money. Then they think it's about information. But very often, it's neither. It's about which version of your mind shows up when money is at risk. Because your brain does not experience investing like a spreadsheet. It experiences it like this: a threat, a thrill, a test, a source of regret, a way to prove yourself, or a system that quietly compounds over time. That's why one person can know what to do and still not do it. That's why another person can make money and still never build wealth. That's why some people stay trapped at the same investing level for years, even while telling themselves they're progressing. Their portfolio changes, their brain doesn't. And if the brain doesn't level up first, the wealth usually doesn't last. Picture two investors in the same market crash. Both say they are long-term investors. Both have cash ready. Both believe, in theory, that downturns create opportunity. Then prices start falling. The first investor checks their account every few hours. Their chest tightens. The headlines feel louder. Every red day feels like evidence that something is wrong. They sell. Not because they had a deep new insight, because the brain that showed up was built for relief, not wealth. The second investor feels fear too. That matters. They are not emotionless. They are not some machine built of logic and spreadsheets. But instead of asking, how do I make this feeling disappear? They ask, what kind of brain is showing up right now? And what would the next level do? So they follow their rules. They keep buying. They zoom out. They let the discomfort pass. A year later, one person has a story. The other has a bigger portfolio. That gap is not just strategy. It is brain level. So let's go through the levels. And as we do, don't ask, which one sounds smart? Ask, which one sounds like me on my worst day? Because that is usually your real level. Level 1, survival brain. At the first level of investing, the brain is trying to survive. This brain says, don't lose money, don't look stupid, don't make the wrong move, don't act until it feels safe. This investor often believes they are being prudent, but what is really happening is that the mind is treating investing like danger. So they wait, they hesitate, they sit in cash too long, they search for certainty in a game that never offers it. And here is the trap. From the inside, fear often feels like wisdom. It sounds responsible to say, I'm just waiting for the right time. But many people say that for years, and what they really mean is, I am waiting for a future version of investing that no longer feels emotionally uncomfortable. That version never arrives, because the first level is not solved by confidence, it is solved by structure. The survival brain does not need a perfect market, it needs a process small enough to begin. If this is your level, your upgrade is simple. Stop trying to become fearless. Build a repeatable investing process that works even while you still feel fear. Because wealth rarely begins when fear disappears. It begins when fear stops making the decision. Level 2. The excitement brain. Once people get past fear, many do not become disciplined. They become excited. Now the brain is not trying to avoid pain. It is chasing stimulation. This is the level of, what if this stock explodes? What if I miss the next big thing? What if other people are getting rich faster than me? At this stage, the brain starts confusing dopamine with skill. Movement feels intelligent. Speed feels important. Volatility feels meaningful. And being emotionally activated starts to feel like progress. But often, it is not progress. It is just emotional intensity wearing the costume of investing. Picture someone hearing about a hot stock from a friend. They don't deeply understand the business. They don't have a clear framework. But the story is exciting. The chart is moving. People are animated, so they buy. For a while, they feel brilliant. They check constantly. Their mood rises with the price. They feel plugged into something important. Then the stock turns. And suddenly they are not investing. They are trapped inside a feeling. That is the real problem here. At this level, the brain is not trying to build wealth. It is trying to feel alive. The level 2 upgrade is this. Learn to ask whether you want the investment or the feeling attached to it. Would you still want it if it were boring? Would you still buy it if nobody was talking about it? Would it still attract you if the chart looked dull? When you can separate excitement from quality, your brain starts maturing. Level 3, the ego brain. This investor may look smart from the outside. They read more, research more, build stronger arguments, speak with more confidence. But the brain is now driven by something subtler, the need to be right. Not just profitable, right. This is where investing gets entangled with identity. A position is no longer just a position. It becomes proof of intelligence. And when that happens, flexibility starts to die. Because now changing your mind feels like losing status. Admitting uncertainty feels weak. Selling feels like surrender. Picture an investor who builds a detailed thesis on a company. They study it for weeks. They tell people about it. They commit publicly. Then new information arrives. A mature investor updates. An ego-driven investor resists. Not because the evidence is weak, because the self-image is attached. And that is dangerous. Because the market is ruthless with people who need reality to protect their pride. The level 3 upgrade is one of the most powerful shifts in investing. Train your brain to care more about making good decisions than looking correct. Because the investor who needs to be right stays rigid. And the investor who can update fast is the one who keeps compounding. Level 4, the overthinking brain. This is where many intelligent people get trapped for years. The overthinking brain is not unserious. It is usually the opposite. This investor consumes books, videos, research, frameworks, models, and strategies. They genuinely want to understand. But their relationship with uncertainty is still weak. So they keep refining, keep waiting, keep comparing, keep delaying action until they feel fully prepared. From the inside, this feels responsible. But often it is something else. Research used as emotional self-protection. There is a type of investor who knows more than half the people already in the market, and still has almost no real exposure, because knowledge became a substitute for commitment. At some point, learning stops being preparation and starts becoming avoidance. And that is where progress stalls. The level 4 upgrade is this. Stop trying to eliminate uncertainty. Learn to act inside it. That means rules. Allocation rules, contribution rules, decision rules. Because the goal is not to feel perfectly certain. The goal is to become someone who can move intelligently without demanding certainty first. That is where maturity begins. Level 5, the disciplined brain. This is where real investing starts to feel quieter, not easier, quieter. The disciplined brain still feels fear, still feels temptation, still notices headlines, but emotion no longer gets the final vote. This investor contributes on schedule, follows allocation rules, rebalances when needed, avoids reacting to every dramatic moment, and slowly something changes. Investing stops feeling like a stream of emotional events and starts feeling like a system. Picture two people during a market decline. One spends the week trying to decide how worried they should be, refreshing news, scanning opinions, absorbing other people's panic. The other has a process. They review, they contribute, they rebalance if needed. Then they move on with their life. Same market, different brain. That difference becomes enormous over time because discipline does not remove volatility. It removes your need to improvise emotionally every time volatility appears. Level 5, Upgrade. If you want to reach this level, stop focusing so much on prediction. Focus on behavior design. Because the disciplined brain is not built by hype, inspiration, or occasional motivation. It is built by systems that still work when emotion gets loud. Level 6, the Wealth Brain. At the highest level, the brain begins to think like an owner. This is the Wealth Brain. And what changes here is not just discipline, it is identity. This person no longer needs investing to feel exciting, validating, or dramatic. They understand that wealth is built through time, ownership, patience, consistency, systems, and emotional stability. They do not need to win every moment. They do not need constant proof that they're smart. They do not need every month to feel impressive. They understand something most people only say, but never truly internalize. The goal is not to react well once in a while. The goal is to build a life and financial system that compounds with as little self-sabotage as possible. Think of someone planting an orchard. A lower-level brain keeps digging up the roots to check whether growth is happening. A wealth brain understands the deeper game. Plant carefully. Protect the system. Stay consistent. Let time work. That is not passivity. That is patience with structure. Level 6, Upgrade. At this level, the brain stops asking, "What is happening today?" and starts asking, "What kind of system still looks intelligent in 10 years?" That single shift changes almost everything. So how do you actually move upward? How do you train your brain for wealth? Not in theory, in practice. First, name your real level honestly, not the flattering level, the behavioral level. Second, reduce emotional improvisation. Decide rules before you need them. Third, label the state your brain is in. Not, the market is insane, but my brain is doing something predictable right now. Fourth, build boring systems, automatic contributions. Scheduled reviews, less noise, more structure. And fifth, train for time, not stimulation. Because the lower brain wants movement, the wealth brain wants compounding. So keep asking yourself, am I building wealth or feeding a feeling? That is one of the most useful questions in all of investing. If you remember one thing from this video, remember this. At every level of investing, your brain is trying to protect you. But it does not always protect you in ways that build wealth. Sometimes it protects you by making you avoid risk. Sometimes by making you chase excitement. Sometimes by making you overthink. Sometimes by making you cling to being right. And if you never learn which mental pattern is in charge, you can spend years repeating the same investing level with better vocabulary. But once you see the pattern, you can train beyond it. Because wealth is not only about what you buy, it is about which version of your brain is allowed to make the decision. And the people who build real wealth are usually not the ones who feel the least emotion. They are the ones who learned how not to obey it.